Hello everyone, my name is Mohnish Shah and I'm a part of batch of 24 of BITSoM, and here with us we have Professor Mudit Mathur who taught us sales and distribution course. The course had some core concepts of sales and distribution which had Indian perspective but with a global mindset. Professor Mudit Mathur has a 27 plus years rich work experience of across FMCG and food industries, where he has worked with Dole Sunshine Company as its general manager. He also was with Johnson and Johnson with 24 plus years, where he had some international leadership roles such as being the commercial director of Hong Kong and Taiwan, being the sales director of Vietnam, and being the vice president of India and South Asia. He also led some international initiatives in USA and Australia. Professor, it's a privilege to be your student and have you here at BITSoM. So to start with, my first question to you is, as I mentioned, your diverse international roles. What do you think are some differences in sales and marketing strategies in India with respect to other leading economies of the world?
Thank you so much, Mohnish, for having me here. I do hope that this conversation adds to all the discussion that we have had in the classrooms before. So thank you for this setting of this session. Yes, specifically to your question, sales and marketing in India is different. And I'm saying that with a lot of experience of having looked at some of the other markets. If I were to just point out a few things, so India was, to begin with, never on a very solid footing in terms of its evolution of sales and marketing environment, right? So we always operated in traditional and we were always evolving. What is now happening, when you look at the marketplace in India today, is that we are now in a phase where we are leapfrogging on so many fronts. We are a diverse country and it's also divergent. So it's also operating in multiple levels in different directions. There's a confluence of consumer technology, market access models that are evolving. So many things that are coming up as the technology front is evolving, as the consumer is evolving, and as we are all gearing up in this economy. The second thing I would say is the speed of change. It's a transformational speed that we are seeing here, which is leading to tremendous opportunity in value creation through both innovation in products, services, and also different models of accessing the market. So that's also, I find India at a very different place vis-a-vis some of the other developed markets. And as we speak, the digitized UI, UX is something that is replacing very rapidly the traditional idea about the whole product experience bit. India is also seeing very high degree of experimentation when I look at it, compared to some of the other markets, both in Asia as well as US, which we typically look at, when we look at a lot of our management understanding. And what is happening there is that in India, you suddenly find that there are so many new media models that are evolving, new ways of influencing the consumer behavior, the whole path to purchase, the way it's getting disrupted, ways of measuring the performance in both sales and marketing is rapidly changing with technology. There are new route to market models that are coming up. Sales processes transformation, you can go on and on, but there is so much change that's happening there. The Western framework, however, does not give enough importance to sales as a function, and understandably so, because they operate in a very simple, straightforward, and a very simplified trade environment where they are selling to few customers. But that's not true in India. There is tremendous opportunity of building business with sales and distribution and marketing in that particular, in this particular environment. So finally, I would say, India, as we all know, is complex. We have both the old and the new thriving side by side, and therefore it's far more fun than some of the other markets.
Talking about India, now coming to Indian B schools, as we all know that the placement season is on in India right now, and what I have also personally observed is that the MBA grads don't look up to sales role as an attractive role post their graduation. So what are your perspectives on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's something that I find is on every MBA student's mind, whether sales is really something that they would want to do. As far as I'm concerned, I was fortunate to have started my career in an organization where management trainee rotation was a norm and not an exception. What that meant is that all management trainees did go through sales as a stint. And I've seen very clear benefits coming from that, as I look at those management trainees as they grew in these organizations. First of all, the ability to see the business outside in. I think it's a tremendous perspective that they can build as soon as they get out of the management institute, because you can very quickly get trapped in all the meetings and forget about the marketplace outside and the customers and what are they thinking. So I think getting your stint in sales really sets you up in the right way for you to understand the business. The second one, which I find is very valuable in this experience, is the whole operational excellence piece. Sales requires you to be tremendously disciplined, manage your time, manage your day. Multiple demands are put on you. So it forces you to think very clearly about how would you organize yourself, how do you organize your day, how do you set priorities, and then how do you deliver things, right? So that operational excellence is a piece that I think nothing sets you up better for that than doing a sales stint. Thirdly, I think something that we talk a lot about in the class, but we tend to forget always, and I've seen that across many experiences, that the whole customer experience and understanding piece. I think that's something that we have to find a way to anchor our own understanding of the business. And when you do the sales stint, it forces you to think customer first. And I think if that is something that you're able to take forward in your career, it's a tremendous, attitude to build for yourself. It also builds your understanding on the value of relationships. I think that's something, again, I find is of tremendous value to management trainees as they grow in their careers. Importantly, I think doing a sales stint also helps you to learn the market language and not just the jargons. Right? We tend to pick up a lot of jargons when we are sitting in a class doing case studies. But when you go to the market, you understand really what exactly are the customers saying. When they talk about dhanda, then you understand dhanda in the right way. Right? When they talk about your product, they will bring out the aspect of your product more clearly than you could as a marketer sitting in a meeting room, right? So I think that's an important lesson that we all learn as we try to transition from a student life to a professional. Let me also tell you, it is tough, right? And I think that's where this whole thought comes up: should I really be doing this? It is tough because you are forced to manage teams. There's tremendous learning, but it is also frustrating at times when you're forced to manage teams. You are facing the customer all the time, right? So a customer might have lots of questions, lots of challenges, and you have to resolve all of them. As I keep reminding people in sales that for the customer, you are the managing director, you are the CEO. So you have to have the answer. You can't say that, I'll check and I'll come back to you. So it's something that forces you to be embedded in the organization, embedded in the business in a very holistic way. And that's sometimes it's tough. It doesn't, especially when you've just finished your education, to get yourself oriented in that way, it can be a little bit of a, orientation issue. Responsibility for delivering sales numbers month in and month out is also something that sometimes gets a little too overbearing for somebody. But I think it's something that we all have to learn, because if you're in a business, that's an expectation, right? So the sooner you learn that, the better it is. And I think nothing teaches you better again than sales. There is, of course, physical discomfort. There's travel involved. You're going out to the market. It's not the most cleanest environment. A lot of times you're meeting customers in their offices, not as fancy and as comfortable probably as your office environment. So those are some of the discomforts. But like I said, it is something that is always the best way to ground yourself as you start your career. So I'm always, a big champion of saying that get yourself, get into that role, learn the hard way. But I think it's something that will hold you in good stead rest of your career. Something that I always remind myself also is that, nothing grounds the MBA knowledge better than a sales stint especially if you are aspiring for a general management role, because really as a general manager, these are also your expectations, right? Very high demand on business delivery, managing people, managing teams, managing customers, managing P&L. So yeah, I mean, tough as it is, I think it is tremendous value, and I would always encourage MBAs to find the first available opportunity. It may not be the first in the line of things that you do, but first available opportunity, do get yourself a sales stint.
Sir, very true. The line where you said you learn real dhanda and not just the MBA jargons was quite my favorite. And my next question to you is, sir, what do you feel? What does it take to be a high performance focused salesman?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because that's something that we don't talk a lot about in the class, because we are really trying to understand the whole expanse of the subject. But if you really ask me, what does it take for somebody to be successful as a salesperson, I would say there are basically 5 things that come to my mind right off the cuff. First is empathy with customers. I think you cannot achieve anything if you do not win the trust of your customers. So building that empathy with the customer and understanding what they need is, I think, the place where it all starts. Second, I would say, is the empathy for the team that works for you. Get the team involved, get the team engaged, get the team committed, and the team will do wonders for you. Third is the credibility of performance, right? Which is as simple as do what you say and say what you do. So build that credibility for yourself. That will really make you do well even when the times are tough, right? Fourth is, be creative and innovative. Business is not always going to be straightforward and easy. Find newer opportunities. So if you can do that, and people who do that well tend to really shine through good times, bad times, tough times, and businesses have cycles. So you're not always going to be in an easy place. So this really helps you. Lastly, I would say it's something which is on the softer aspect, but be a person that the customer would like to do a business with. Being likable is tremendously underestimated, but I think it's something that really works wonders in getting things done with your customer that would be otherwise, in many cases, not even possible. So yeah, those would be my top five.
So based on your first point, when you said about customer empathy, I quickly remembered a line you said in the class where the salesperson should always focus on value-based conversations rather than cost-based conversations.
Absolutely.
So yes, and my next point again regarding the salesman is during your entire experience, you must have observed some sales professionals lends itself to so many myths and cliches. So based on your experience, what are some which you found untrue in your experience?
Yeah, there are so many legendary things that you hear about sales team, and a lot of them are pure myths and they're not true. And the reason why it's important to understand is that if you were to believe those myths to be true, you'd be missing a whole lot of value that the salesperson brings to the role. So let me talk about a few of them which I found and discovered in my career. One that comes top of my mind is that customer always wants margin. Right? I mean, this is something that we kind of believe in, right? And very deeply believe in. If you are not close enough to the customer to understand that actually what customer cares for is the ROI, right? They're not just looking for margins. They're obviously investors in the business, so they're looking for returns, which is not just margins, right? And they also, when you get into a detailed conversation with them, they will tell you what are the other aspects of the transaction that is of value to them. So listening to them will really help you to unlock a lot of value for your organization rather than just passing on the margins. And, just giving them attention at times is something that they value a lot more than somebody just coming and offering a higher margin or a promotion. The second one I would say is, the cliche and the whole stereotyping, if you like, around salespeople are driven by incentives only. Give them incentives and they will deliver for you. And I think that's really sad that that kind of a myth is out there, because it's really not true. I mean, of course, there is an aspect of incentive, and all of us work for monetary incentive. I mean, that's why we come to work for. But to say that salespeople are only driven by that, I think is misplaced. If I were to say, you get closer to them and give them the due respect for what they do, and the commitment and the the value that they bring to the organization, the loyalty that they have. You will see that they are far more engaged and they are far more motivated. So yes, motivation and engagement is higher in my head versus just incentives, right? The third one I would say is another a classic one, which is sales. To be in sales, you have to be an extrovert, right? And I just think that it's too broad brushed, and it misses the whole point that there is a skill and the intellect aspect to the job as well, right? They do tend to be at times the louder folks in the room. But when you sit down with them one on one, they'll also have a lot of personal stories, and they can really bond with you, and they can tell you so much more about the business than what you expect from just people who are singing and dancing all the time. So I think that that's a myth that we need to get through and cut through. The last one, but not the least important one, is that women folks can't do sales. I mean, this is another old cliche and stereotype that's been around for a very long time. I can tell you many organizations still do believe in that, and they operate it like an old boys club. And I think what they miss out tremendously, because I've seen organizations that value women in sales team, what they really get when they put there is that the whole aspect of building trust, building relationship, apart from the business acumen, right? Communication skills, functional capability, all of this is, and today in technology world, all of this is available across. There isn't anything that which that you would say puts male ahead of the female in that role. So yeah, I mean, it's sad that that kind of a stereotype continues, but it's really time to change that and challenge that. I would definitely say one thing: organizations need to ensure safety and support around this whole aspect of involving and getting females into the roles, and then they will really benefit from this diversity that will come into their sales team. So yeah, just some of the myths that I thought of I would share here.
Professor, your perspective was quite interesting when you said about women at the ground level. As of now, I think organizations are focused most probably on the women in leadership position, but I liked your perspective on that. And my next question is that in an MBA of 2 years, we had many strategy and marketing courses where we focus on a lot of competitive advantages, from technology to innovation to first mover advantage to, let's say, some differentiation kind of thing. But in this course, we learned about how distribution can be leveraged as a competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
So what are your perspectives on that, and how are Indian companies doing that recently?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Which is the whole purpose of learning sales and distribution in the first place, so that you can use this as a competitive advantage in the business, right? So, based on what we already discussed in the class, if I were to enumerate a few of them, so first I would say is the cost to serve, right? I mean, if you are able to manage your cost to serve, which would be your logistics cost, your margins in the business, your sales productivity, if you can keep that down, it really helps you have a competitive advantage over a longer term in the marketplace, right? And especially for categories like which are commodities, which are like cements, chemicals, it's really something that organizations have done that, and they've leveraged that to a very great extent. The other I would say is that in many ways higher distribution is a very simple and straightforward requirement for you to be a market leader. If you cannot be distributed widely, you cannot, and especially when you talk about consumption at point of sale products like your juices, like your carbonated drinks. I mean, you look at Coke, Pepsi, they're all the time fighting for building access. Also remember, good distribution is an entry barrier for somebody else to come into your business. It because new organizations will have to build those relationships in the marketplace, whereas if you already have those relationships, you are able to keep out the competition for at least some time, right? And that gives you a very strong head start over the competition. So yeah, I mean, these are the broadly three areas I would say definitely where sales and distribution can bring competitive advantage. Yeah, so Mohnish, let me ask you the question now. In the course that we did, which part of it did you like the most? I mean, what was your experience in the course?
Okay. Uh, so to be honest, for me, my favorite part was where the live project where it was spent for across 1 to 2 months. So where we selected a company, Birla White, which is a unit of Ultratech Cement, which also happens to be my company where I spent my summer internship with, which is a part of Aditya Birla Group's leadership program. So we selected a newly launched product and mapped their entire sales and distribution strategy. And in that, we met some key stakeholders, including the retailers, to painters, and to the high-level management of which was my vice president of sales and my manager, Mr. Hussein Khan. And we gathered some high-level insights in that, and we also learned how the key strategic choices were made at each and every distribution levels. So we understood the overall landscape as well along with the groundwork, where we understood the overall competitor analysis by combining the value proposition table and the performance importance metrics. I also was surprised to learn about some various new route to market channels and how was the entire value proposition when they were planning to launch their new product. So at the end of this course and this assignment, I got to know the larger 30,000 feet view, which we say in the MBA, but also learn about what is the importance of the groundwork when we start our career, especially. So yes, that was my favorite part.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. I'm glad that you like that because I'm sure that it anchored some of the discussion that we had in the class as well.
So, Professor, coming to my last question, the course spent across few months, and I want you to share how was your experience, what was your experience of coming to BITSoM and teaching us?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for asking that question, Mohnish. And I must say that I was quite impressed with the mix of the class. I saw a lot of curiosity in the class. I saw a lot of diversity of ideas, diversity of approaches, experiences as well, which I actually saw that added a lot of value to the class. People coming from different startup backgrounds, fintech backgrounds. So I think all of that contributed tremendously to the learning experience, at least in the way that I had not even thought about. So I thought that was really great about the class, at BITSoM. The other thing was our commitment that we made to all of us made that commitment at the beginning of the sessions was that we wanted to keep the conversation real. We wanted to keep it grounded to what really happens, right? And I think being mindful of that throughout the course was something that I thought all of us were honest about, and I think we therefore made the learning that much more real and long-standing in that way. A lot of experience sharing, curiosity, which I already spoke about. I think the earnestness with which these students also went about doing the projects. It reflects to me the seriousness of how they're looking at their education here at BITSoM. And also, hopefully, that will also set them up for success wherever they go in whichever organization they work in. So, yeah, I mean, it was a very fulfilling experience. I mean, I'm not a teacher by profession. I'm somebody who works in the industry. So, it's always something that I worry about whether I'm really creating value, whether I'm really adding anything to the experiences of the students while they're here at BITSoM. So, I personally go back very satisfied that I think I was able to pass on, and I can see that a lot of the students, and you spoke about your project, but a lot of them did their project very enthusiastically, which I think is great. It reflects the sincerity and just the way you approach the education here at BITSoM. So yeah, a great experience.
So the part where you said you are industry leader and then you come to teach us, I think that's the best for us because as you also said, the part where we all sit grounded for this much time and we didn't talk much about the jargons part and focused on the groundwork which is done over in the companies as well. That was my favorite. And if I just remember one line which you have said in the class, that don't focus on the features, focus on the benefits you give to the customers. That still stays with me, and with that, thank you, Professor. Thank you for teaching us. It was a privilege to be your student again, and thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. Thank you.